Election season heating up and also inching closer to the next Texas legislative session that starts in January. So this morning, we're taking a look at a recent poll. It shows more Texans are in favor of loosening the state's cannabis laws. You know, thousands of Texans already get medical cannabis prescriptions to treat conditions like PTSD, for example, cancer and seizure disorders. This all falls under the state's compassionate use program. So let's talk more about this with Morris Denton. Let's bring him in. He's the CEO of Texas Original. First off, Mr. Denton, good morning to you. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Henry. Nice to be with you on this Sunday.
Absolutely. All right, let's start here. Just for some clarification purposes, since you're the expert, who is eligible for medical cannabis under current Texas law?
It's a pretty wide net right now, which includes folks that are suffering from all forms of cancer, seizure disorders such as epilepsy, MS, spasticity, autism, Alzheimer's, PTSD, and then this big sort of large umbrella called incurable neurodegenerative conditions. So there are tens of thousands of Texans that currently qualify, many of which probably don't know that they qualify. So they really need to get in to go see a doctor in order to get registered in the program.
You know, with this cannabis laws, we certainly have seen it, and I'm curious to get your take. Let's step back for a second, how it certainly has progressed through the years. So can you walk us through a little bit of that journey as to, those previous discussions and then now to where we are currently?
Yeah, well, it's not unfair to say that sometimes the pace of change operates at a glacial level, which in Texas, unfortunately, as it relates to cannabis, is pretty just, at least from an analogy perspective. But way back in 2015, Texas passed Senate Bill 339, which allowed for one condition, which was intractable epilepsy, which is a narrow subset of seizure disorders. Nothing happened in 2017. In 2019, they added MS, spasticity, and autism. And then in 2021, they added PTSD, and they added all forms of cancer. And so each session, we've seen some expansion and some improvement to the program, but we just haven't seen the type of step function change that Texans really deserve, in order to get safe and legal access to this medicine on a broader basis.
All right, let's take us there now to the future. As I said, in January, we're about to start it. You said, we've inched kind of through each legislative session. Do you expect any changes in terms of the landscape of this as we look ahead? And I know it's hard to predict here, but what are we thinking?
Yeah, I wish I had a really strong crystal ball, Henry, but the best I can do is say, yeah, I anticipate that there will be some changes that will occur. I think there will be additional improvements that'll be made to the program. The reality is that with each successive legislative session and with each 2-year period that follows each legislative session, more Texans get access. The more stories we hear about the transformative nature of medical cannabis on people, people who had hundreds of seizures a day that are now seizure-free, people that had to walk with a walker or with a cane because of their MS or spasticity that are now pretty mobile and able to get around without much assistance whatsoever. So, we're seeing continued evidence of the power and the truth of medical cannabis. And as a result, I expect that it will continue to have a positive impact on our legislators. As you identified earlier at the top of our discussion, there's overwhelming support within the polls, and even within the polls on the Republican Party specifically, that suggests that the hardcore Republican primary voters want to see a full medical marijuana marketplace, which includes people who are suffering from chronic pain, whose real only alternative right now is opioids. And when you start to see the number of opioid overdose deaths and addiction rates right here in Texas, and it continues to only go one way, we as a society have to figure out a different approach to helping those that suffer from chronic pain.
Yeah, I mean, you even had the top Republican, Sid Miller, in Texas saying that, it should be expanded in terms of marijuana laws. So interesting to see how it's going to play out. Mr. Denton, we appreciate you for being with us on this Sunday.
Always great to be with you guys. Henry, thanks for your time.
Take care. All right, time now.